Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Health Coach Success Virtual Masterclass. My co-host Laura and I worked hard to pull together this special online event just for you. It's a 5-day mini course in which we interview the best and brightest health coach and marketing experts on the planet to try to understand how they've become such great coaches and entrepreneurs. Included in the 20-plus expert interviews are some names you might recognize. Primal Health Coach Institute founder Mark Sisson, celebrity nutrition expert and New York Times bestselling author J.J. Virgin, author, cardiologist, and staunch health coach advocate Dr. William Davis, Michelle Liotta of Health Coach Power Community, Michelle Norris, CEO of Paleo FX and ID Life Nutrition, and many, many more. The Health Coach Success Virtual Masterclass is now available and totally free for a limited time. Check it out at primalhealthcoach.com/success. Today on the show, we're welcoming Chris Pryor. Chris is the chief fat loss expert at The Optimized Life and founder of the 8 to Straight system. He's a certified health coach who helps corporate dads lose 20 plus pounds of fat forever without traditional dieting or prolonged cardio. Chris works predominantly in the one-on-one space with his clients, focusing his help and attention exactly where they need it. He's great at what he does as a coach. And the reason we wanted to have him on the show is because Chris specifically has the solution to the question we are asked most by coaches. How do I find clients? Chris shares with us his systematic approach to content creation using straight up organic posting, not paid ads, to get a steady stream of clients in the door. He gives us some very specific tactics and tools that you can put into place right away to consistently get your message in front of your clients' eyes. And that is how you get clients. So take out your notepad and learn from a coach who's doing this exceptionally well. Please welcome Chris Pryor.
Welcome, Chris Pryor. I am so excited to have you on here. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Awesome. So as always, we love to start every podcast with a little backstory, your origin story. Tell our audience a little bit about who Chris Pryor is and kind of how you got here.
Okay. First of all, hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm just really honored to be here with you all. I guess I could start off by saying I've had 2 big awakenings in my life. Some people call those aha moments. They were kind of just life transforming, sliding door moments. And I'll tell you about those because I think they relate pretty directly to what I do vocationally. So I have to go all the way back to 1988. I was a 18-year-old kid, just all-American boy. Through my teens, kind of lived a wild party life. And when I was 18, I just had a spiritual awakening, I'll call it, just where I was kind of reconnecting with the faith of my childhood. And right when I was 18, I was just really perplexed and scared to death of what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Because up until that point, my whole focus was trying to get good grades in school, and maybe I'll just go into business like my father and make lots of money. And kind of when I had that sort of awakening, that aha moment, that stuff didn't matter to me as much anymore. But I was still terrified. I'm like, well, what am I going to do with my life? And so I started working in a church setting with middle schoolers and high schoolers, and just really loved it. Loved just being able to connect with teenagers and kind of help them through those kind of turbulent years as a teen, kind of that I experienced. And I think that's kind of where I developed my love of creative communication, because I had to kind of figure out a way to, for lack of a better word, kind of package faith-based messages and kind of put them in, I'll just call it a package, to get middle schoolers who are probably not thinking how can I transform my life when I'm 13 years old? And so working at ways to kind of get those messages across. A great example, I remember we used to do announcements during our youth group meetings, and no one wants to listen to announcements, but they were really important because we're trying to promote activities for these kids to go to and be a part of. And they would never listen. And so I'm like, okay, I got a great idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my dog and I would stuff her mouth full of peanut butter. And these are the days before high-tech digital recording and stuff like that. So I had like, the old big camcorder with a VCR tape. And so I would just record her chomping on peanut butter. And then I would do voiceovers for the announcements in the background. And so that, it was hokey, but that seemed to work. That seemed to get middle schoolers' attention to announcements. But, that was just kind of an example of what I used to do through just, trying to find ways to just creatively communicate to kids, just really life transforming messages. And I just really enjoyed that aspect of it. And so I also had I did that for about 6 years. And after about 6 years, I was getting old kind of quickly. It's like those commercials. It's one of those life insurance commercials that life comes at you fast. Whereas like all of a sudden these kids were changing the radio station in my car. We used to listen to the same stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting old very fast. And I had a young family and I was spending way too much time doing it. So I was just really burning out with it. And I was kind of doing a crossfade in my life because my love of music and writing and recording music was kind of on the uptick. And my downtick was spending all night lock-ins with middle schoolers and doing egg in the armpit relays and stuff like that. That just was, I was just kind of crossfading in my life. So I kind of launched into a career of, for the last 18 years, I've been a creative arts director for multiple churches in California and also in Virginia. And I'm kind of just doing youth work just for adults now. And so, but instead of using the peanut butter in the mouth with a dog, we'll use creative videos that I produce, or maybe just writing and producing music. And then that's the great thing about this job that I've been in the last 18 years is that I've been able to, I've been paid to write and record music and create video content and design multimedia presentations. So I think my love of sort of creative communication kind of was birthed through that. The second, I'll call it awakening aha moment I had in my life was right about my mid 40s. And I was, I got fat. That's the essence of it. So the awakening wasn't so much I got fat, but I was like, okay, well, I got to figure out how to lose this. And I was kind of blessed with the skinny jeans. I don't really call it blessed, but I didn't really have any outward negative effect of the lifestyle through my 20s and 30s. I mean, all my friends were gaining weight, and I was just like, yeah, I can eat whatever I want and I can do whatever I want. And I wasn't gaining any pounds. I was kind of the skinny kid, and both my parents were pretty skinny. So I was just like, yeah. But then, about 42 hit, and it inevitably just out of nowhere, all these pounds kind of showed up around my gut. And so I thought, well, time to pay the piper. It had to happen to everybody, and it happened to me eventually. So that's when I started going on runs. So I spent 2 years just running with the dogs, and do it every morning pretty diligently for about 2 miles a day. And after 2 years, I had lost none pounds. So I'm like, well, something's not right here. So then I got, okay, I'm going to get really, really serious. So I joined a gym for the first time in my life. And so every day I was there, and I didn't really know what to do. I didn't have a plan, but I was pretty much just getting on the machines that looked the most fun. So treadmills and Stairmasters, and had no idea what I was doing. So I did that hardcore for about a year. And once in a while I would get on a weight machine and piddle around, but I was so terrified of turning into just a bodybuilder. That was not a goal for me. And so after a year of doing that hardcore, I had lost none pounds. And so it got really, really frustrating. And trying to Google weight loss, for instance, got me even more frustrated because I couldn't find, there was just thousands of different approaches, and I just couldn't find one that seemed to work, and they all disagree with each other. Well, at this time I had a friend who was a close friend of mine who was a health coach, and I desperately said, hey, can you help me? And that was really hard for me for two reasons. One is because I like to just research stuff myself. So I really had to suck in my pride to say, I can't figure this out. I've been able to be pretty resourceful through my life. And it was really tough to kind of put my life in someone else's hands and say, hey, you got to help me. And so that's kind of what I did. And that was my approach to it. I said, hey, whatever you tell me to do, I will do. And I won't even ask any questions. So that was a humbling moment to put my life in someone's hands. The other reason I didn't want to hire him is because he was a bodybuilder. And again, that was not a goal of mine. I wanted to keep my shapely neck. I wanted to have a neck, right? And so I just thought, hey, if he gets me on a weight training program, I don't want to turn into a bodybuilder. That just wasn't really a goal for me. But it was life transforming. And for the first time in 3 years, after doing a lot of cardio and a lot of gym time, I just began to see the scale move down. But the bigger awakening wasn't the pounds that were starting to come off for the first time. It was just all of a sudden I'm like, I got a lot more energy now. I got a lot more joy in my life. I've got a lot more to give. And that was the big awakening for me. And so that's why I just really wanted to venture out in a second career, if you will, of health coaching. And like, if I can help people avoid some of the pitfalls that I encountered and just have any kind of wisdom that I've learned from that, it would make my life worthwhile. So that's in a nutshell, my two life transforming transformations.
Awesome.
What's unique about that is that I don't know if we've had anybody, or if I've ever heard of anybody who came to health coaching from health coaching. Do you know what I mean? Like, who had a health coach and then was like, I like this, I want to do this. I mean, I guess we've had trainers and maybe nutritionists, but and I also like, Chris, how you didn't want to accidentally become a bodybuilder, because like, I don't want to accidentally get a bunch of muscle, so I'm going to stay away from those. It always makes me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting.
Found out quickly, that's a lot harder than it looks.
Exactly.
It is. Yes. Yeah. So it sounds like creative communications is like an aptitude of yours. Would you say you're born with that skill and you honed it over the years doing this?
I don't think I was ever born with it. I mean, I took creative writing classes in high school, and I don't ever remember excelling in those things. So I think it's just something that kind of developed later on in life for me.
Okay, that's good. The reason I asked is because I think the creative piece is one that a lot of any entrepreneur, and honestly in any category, struggles with, because you have to be a little bit creative. I mean, you have to be quite creative to be an entrepreneur. I think you have to harness some creativity somewhere, right? And so a lot of people think, like, personally, I do have an aptitude for it. I've always been creative. So like when I write a compelling, whatever Instagram post, it's not even hard, or creating video content's not hard, but for a lot of coaches, it's hard, like to the point of being the absolute barrier to entry. So what would you say to those people?
I would say that everybody's creative. And I know people that might be hearing this saying, oh, I'm just not the creative type, I'm not artistic. And that's not what I'm talking about. I think every human being has an innate creativity locked within them. And all they do is have to flesh it out. And again, everyone's creativity is going to look different. An artist's creativity is going to be different than a musician's, or a musician's going to be different than someone who's more entrepreneurial. But there's creativity that can be fleshed out from you, and it's going to speak to your unique audience, whoever you're trying to reach. And so I think we all have that in us.
Yeah, that's right.
100%. And what's interesting is when I talk to folks that are, whether they're within our community or they're current health coaches and they're really struggling with launching, or they're folks that are curious about this, but they're just afraid to sort of take that step. I think a lot of people get stuck in this, I don't know enough to be impactful kind of mindset. Like, they're constantly learning, and we talk all the time about that's not it. It's not necessarily that you have to kind of know it all so much as you need to be able to communicate, right? What Absolutely. You do know, and within the scope of what you know, within what's relevant to your client, you don't have to know it all, right?
Absolutely. I'm a very new social media-er. I had a Facebook, I think, in 2003, but I only use it to just check on my adult daughter. That was all I was using it for. So I've only been doing it hardcore, I think, for about less than 2 years. And that might be to my advantage too, because I'm not so burned out with using social media, or Facebook in particular, for so many years. And I know that I hear that from a lot of people that just like, oh, every time I get on there, it's changed, or it's just a bunch of political rants or things like that. But for me, it's a new and fresh medium for reaching people and promoting my business and what I offer people. So I'm having a blast with it. It's really fun.
Do you mind speaking to that a little bit and giving our audience an idea as far as kind of, how you use social media, what you think are the best parts about it and how to use it effectively, and what should people kind of maybe not spend their time on or worry about so much?
Well, for me, the biggest tool that I use, and it's just been a revelation for me, is setting aside some hours during the week. For me, it's Saturday mornings. So every Saturday morning, I set aside anywhere from like 3 to 4 hours, and I just batch all my content for the week. And that has just been so helpful, because before that, I would get up in the morning and I would try to figure out, okay, what am I going to write today? And maybe the inspiration's not hitting. And so just for me to block out an extended period of time once a week where I can just batch all of my content. And for me, batching all of my content, I post 5 out of 7 days. So 2 days I'm not doing any social media. I'm taking a break from it and trying to get off of it as much as possible. Most of the time it's shutting down my phone for 2 days straight and getting away from it. But and that happens on Thursday and Friday. And that really helps, because on Saturday, I just feel like a lot more fresh, and I've got more fresh ideas. And I guess my creative juices are flowing a lot more than I think if I was just doing it all the time. So I've kind of limited my posting to 5 days a week, but that batching content is just so much. I really look forward to it. I look forward to just kind of charting out a week and saying, okay, what are the topics that I want to hit on? And here's a side note too, is that I can always find things to write about. I read a lot of health books and listen to a lot of podcasts. And so there's always inspiration going, but it might not necessarily be what my ideal client wants to hear or needs to hear, probably more specifically. I think the first mistake I made, I think early on, was just, hey, I'm just going to write about whatever I feel is fun and sciencey. But I wasn't really connecting with people on that. It wasn't until I started doing interviews with people that were in my ideal niche, and I started asking them just questions about. And I had a formal interview sheet. I would just ask them questions like, hey, what's confusing to you in the health and nutrition space? What's worked for you in the past? What hasn't worked for you in the past? And so try to get into their headspace. And I came up with so many great topics. And I usually I have about, I think, 20 topics that I have gleaned from my avatar client, which is corporate dads who are trying to lose maybe 20 plus pounds or something like that, and trying to do it without cardio and dieting and things like that. That's kind of the person I'm trying to reach. So kind of getting into their headspace and not assuming I know what that is. Here's the 20 topics. And so I pretty much just kind of vamp on those things. Maybe it's stressed out at work. Maybe it's not sleeping well enough. Maybe it's figuring out why I can't lose weight, things like that. And so I just begin to spend every Saturday kind of opening up those needs and kind of, hey, what am I going to write about these days? And that's been just so awesome for me to be able to do that.
Wow. That's very methodological. Methodical.
Methodical.
I think I added
there you go.
I added extra syllables in there just to make myself sound.
Yes, I like that.
Because, okay, yeah. So one piece of advice everybody should know is that you have to start with your ideal client to figure out who that is. But the piece that so few are not doing, including yours truly, is this interview piece, this market research.
Yeah, I love that idea.
I want to know how you did it. So we know you have a questionnaire that I presume you send to them, but how did you find them? What did you say? Did you put a message on social media? Did you send to your email subscribers? Where and how did you start this market research?
Yeah, I've done both. Primarily just friends that I know, people that I know, and they trust me. And I just ask them, hey, would you be willing to do this market research study with me? And no one's ever denied me. People love talking about themselves, and they love answering questions about their journey, and with no sort of pressure. It's a great way I've gotten a couple clients from that process as well too. So, and I didn't go into it with that idea, but I think that's another side benefit, is you're just offering yourself to ask questions and to kind of get in their headspace. And I think it really matters to people that, hey, there's someone who's taken the time to really listen to me and listen to what my needs are, rather than just assuming what they are. So mostly it's just been friends. I've done a couple sort of posts about, hey, I'm doing this market research study for dads, so I need 10 dads to, I haven't got a great response for that, but a couple here and there.
Okay.
But for the most part, it's just been people I know.
Yeah, well, so there is an upfront time investment that I think a lot of busy people are like, I'll get to that later. That's my excuse anyway. Like, I'll that's on my list. It's honestly been on my to-do list for like 2 years. Like, I'm gonna, but the upfront time investment seems daunting. But then the time you save in the back end, because you're not spinning your wheels, it's almost like I went to a little workshop a few weeks ago, and that was the biggest takeaway. It's like, what am I even doing? I think I'm getting into the head of my avatar client, and the reason why we can say that is because, well, my avatar client's just like me, like me. So I know what their pain points are, but. Do you though? Like, do you really? You kind of have to ask, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, and not only so the upfront time commitment, saving you time on the back end, but also, my takeaway from that is the effort that you do then spend is much more effective, right? Rather than
I think
taking
so.
shots in the dark. And
Yeah.
hopefully you're hitting your mark. You know, it's interesting because like Erin, it's been on my to-do list, but I took like one extra step. I finally just like people that I know, and I used Facebook Messenger because I don't have email addresses for everybody, but in my case, it's moms, okay, between the ages of say 35 and 45 or 50. They are very busy, overstressed. So, you know, I had this avatar and I probably had a list of 20 to 25 people that I just thought of off the top of my head. So I sent them all a Facebook Messenger saying, hey, you know, you came to mind for me because this is what I'm looking to do because I'm going to be transitioning my business, but I want to make sure that whatever I develop is actually going to be impactful and powerful. And, you know, and so I'm looking for just a small group of women to be like my board of advisors, right? And to kind of try to help me build this along the way. And so I'm looking, all I really want you to be able to do is answer some questions and give me your opinion on things. And I thought, you know what, if I can get 5 or 6 ladies to say yes, I'm good. Guess how many people said yes? Every single one of them. Every single one of them was like, sure, I'm happy to help, you know? And my advantage was, you know, anybody that helps me build this will have, you know, kind of free access to the actual content, not necessarily the coaching side, but some of the content that I build. You'll get that sneak peek. Every single one of them said yes. Everyone's like, I'm happy to help. So, you know, the takeaway, I think, from your experience and my experience is just ask, because chances people love to help. They love to feel helpful, right?
Absolutely.
100%. I love that.
What kind of questions did you ask them, Chris?
Off the top of my head, just what keeps you awake at night? That was one of my favorite questions because that's kind of a deep question.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, what are the things that you worry about? What are the struggles you have? And I get specific about, okay, what are the problems that you have in trying to lose weight? What's really worked well? What hasn't worked well? What are you confused about? I've got one. I do a lot of video content, so hey, if I was to make 3 videos, what would you like them to be? What would be most helpful? And so I've got a lot of great ideas from just hearing the answers to those questions.
Awesome. Very good. You talked about batching content. Well, first of all, I want to show you, I know people listening to the podcast won't be able to see this, but I actually drew the heart eyes emoji when you said, I drew the heart eyes emoji when you said you have 2 days without your phone. It's like, that is my dream. That is my dream. And the way that you achieve that is by batching your work. I struggle with that. And I bet you a lot of people listening do too, because I feel like I have creative sparks all the time. Like, oh, I should write that. That's good. Like it kind of comes in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I were to sit down, and I know this about myself, having spent a career as a creative writer, it's like sometimes I sit at my desk and it's like, today's not the day. Today I am not creative. I've got nothing. So do you ever find that happens where you sit down on your Saturday morning and you're like, or is it always flowing? And
it's always flowing, but it's not because I have such a creative gift. It's because I have a notes app on my phone, and I'm constantly putting ideas in there. And so I have hundreds and hundreds of ideas that I'll probably never use.
Yeah.
But if I ever get stuck, and I do all the time, I just go through that and I'm like, okay, well, oh, that's a good topic. Or I'll put a page number of a book and I'll go back to that book and say, oh yeah, that was something that I read, or, you know, a Post-it note or something like that, that kind of refreshes my memory and always gives me inspiration. So it's very rarely sort of just coming up with things on the top of my head. It's just really kind of cataloging more ideas than I'll probably ever use. So.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, that's a tip I've given at some of the master classes we host. It's like, I call it my list of headlines. And it's literally when you're out reading, shopping at the coffee shop, overhearing conversations, if anything sparks a little bit of like intrigue, just jot it down. And you might go back to it. It might seem like gibberish. Like, what did I mean by that? But so the takeaway is on Saturday, you that's when you're creating the content, but the ideas for the content are happening all the time. You're just cataloging them. Great.
Yeah. And my process after that, it might be kind of boring, but I think maybe your listeners would benefit from a couple of the things that I do. So after I, batch all the stuff, then I throw them into notes files. Well, actually, before I get there, I make them in Word, so there's nothing fancy about that. And I always think concise is better than long ramblings on. So trying to make it as concise and to the point as possible, and not going on tangents. So that helps when you kind of batch. You can kind of see it from a kind of an airplane point of view. And so that's been really helpful. I found this tool called, and maybe you've seen all the ads for it, Grammarly. I just use the free version of that, but it's just a really good, every time I throw it into the online free tool of Grammarly, I'm catching something that looks bad or poor grammar or something like that. So that cleans it up a little bit. Then there's this other tool I use called Hemingway app. It's just a free online tool that helps you write even more basic. And I think sometimes we're trying to impress people with our fancy words.
Yeah.
And the idea of Hemingway is to get it where it shows you the grade next to it, the reading level. And if I can get it to a 1, like grade level 1, I'm like, yeah, everyone's going to be able to get that. If it says something like college level, then I've failed. One time I had it and it's a grade 0. I don't know what that means. Does that mean like kindergarten or preschoolers or, I felt so lame, like that's a 0, but that was kind of a badge of honor for me to, hey, I write at grade level 0. But for me, that's just where your message is going to be that more poignant for people to grasp.
Hemingway, is that an iPhone app or?
No, it's just an online tool called HemingwayApp.com. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Very cool.
And so then I just put that new text in the Notes app, and that's great because that syncs with all my computers, phones, and tablets because I'm just writing things in different places during the day. I'm a late 40s man, and I can't stop using emojis. I don't know what my problem is. Oh, by the way, if you're a Mac user, write this down. If this is the only thing you're going to learn from this podcast, Control Command Spacebar. Control Command Spacebar. That pulls up your little emoji tab if you're writing on a computer, and you can just go emoji crazy. So, but it's kind of embarrassing.
Wait. Control Command Spacebar.
Control Command Spacebar. Are you doing it right now? Are you checking it out?
I did. I don't have any kind of word processing app. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, and you can search. So you can type in man with hand raised or something like that, or and you can just start typing and find all sorts of good stuff. So
that's amazing.
Revolutionary, I know.
It is.
But that's where I'm putting all the stuff in the Notes app, and I'm kind of cleaning it up, making it look pretty, putting some emojis on it and stuff like that. And I don't have to do that every single day. It's just kind of in the hopper and ready to go. And so when Wednesday rolls around, I can go in the Notes app and find the Wednesday post. And here's the process I use then. I put it with a picture. And I've done kind of the same thing with pictures that I do with batching. I've just gotten a slew of pictures. So I had someone take just a bunch of pictures, hundreds of them, and I kind of have them ready to go at a moment's notice. And so that's been really helpful too, rather than trying to take a selfie every day, which is fine too if you can do that. But that's just been a huge help and a huge time saver just to have a file of hundreds of pictures and just picking one that that's really important too, because we as humans are drawn to a face and a smile, not so much a logo. The only one that cares about my logo is my mom. And so to kind of realize that no one really wants to see your logo, no one wants to see maybe even your graphics or your cool designs, but just a smiling face can carry so much weight. I think it's one of the powers of Instagram that's really harnessed that. And so anyway, so I matched the pictures with a post. And for you Mac users out there, I've got another app for you. It's called Flume, Flume. Flume, whatever it's pronounced, but it's a desktop app for Instagram.
Wow.
And so you don't have to do it on your phone. I know a lot of people avoided Instagram posts because they feel like they just have to like type everything on their phone because there's not a lot of great tools for that. But that's like the best $10 I ever spent. So I'm able to kind of go in there, and you don't have to make those funky things between like periods before spaces and lines and things like that, which is not a deal breaker for me. But I think it just looks a lot more cool and professional when you just have like real spaces and in there. So it just helps you to kind of clean it up and make it look pretty. And then I head on over to Facebook and copy and paste the same stuff from over there. Now, a lot of people do the syncing kind of thing. And I know that saves a step and saves some time, but from everything I've learned, like the algorithms of Facebook, no one's going to see it that way. So, and I don't think I don't think we're all that busy. I think it's fine to just say, hey, I can take another 2 minutes and copy the text and throw it into Facebook in a separate post. And there might be some things like on Instagram, I'm always saying, hey, hit the link in my bio. Well, there's no link in the bio on Facebook. So I'm able to go in there and say, hey, click this link in the comments, and it'll be another place for people to take people to. And every post has a call to action because I want people to do something with it, whether that's just commenting on the post or trying to gauge some So feedback with that, with a question, or it's usually just going to your highest ticket offer. For me, that's just my website. It's one little link in my bio, so they can go up there and click that, and that sends them to my website where they can get on my mailing list, where I send out an email every now and then. And so then I have their contact information, and it's just my highest ticket offer kind of thing. I could send them to a lot of different places. I know a lot of people use Linktree and have like 30 different links in their bio, but I always want to send them to one place. For me, that kind of takes the confusion out of it, and I can be more concise with my messaging. So anyway, after Facebook is over and do that, then I do I head back over to Instagram and I copy the post to my story, and then I go back over to Facebook and do the same thing. So it's a little monotonous, but for me, it's really worth it because this is just free advertising, free marketing, and just being consistent with that, I really believe is going to pay off over the long run.
Wow. Awesome.
Dang. Okay, I just want to clear up. So you are writing these posts on your Mac using Flume. Does it have a scheduling component, that app?
It does not, no.
Okay. So then how do you schedule things? Because you say you do this on Saturday, or on Saturday you write, but then you actually post every day. You're actually posting on the day, you're not scheduling. Am I getting that correct?
Correct, yeah. And
Okay.
I know there's some services that have done that. I just haven't made the jump to that yet because I haven't found ones that are too economical with that.
I know. I just bought the one that everyone's talking about. Well, I bought Later. I bought a year subscription to Later. It's expensive, and I haven't even opened it yet. And it's so daunting to imagine that I'm going to sit down on a Tuesday morning, and I don't know why I'm so daunted by that. But it's like, what if I decide I didn't like that picture at the last minute? Like, oh, now it's in there. I don't know. But
I like being engaged with it on a daily basis. I mean, even though I've written it a couple of days ago, it's fun for me to say, okay, I can reread it again. Maybe I'll find a spelling mistake in there, or maybe I'm like, I want to change that word. I want to make that a little bit better. And so I'm able just to kind of interact with it just very minimally, maybe for 5 minutes. And so I feel like, oh yeah, I remember what I was writing today. And so that's been really helpful for just, I use this one app called When to Post, and that's a free app. And so it doesn't take doesn't handle the automation of it, but it allows you to say, hey, when's the best time to post in terms of your readership? And so it kind of gives you some ideal windows to do that in. So I try to kind of adhere to that, and that's not too hard to do.
So, but on Facebook, or maybe it's only in groups and not on a normal page, because I can pre-schedule a post in Facebook. But is that only in a group? Because that's the only way because I like, for example, for my gym, we post our workouts for the next day, the night before.
Yeah.
So I go, but I only post it in my private group. I don't post it on our public page, which maybe I should change. So do you guys know, is that the ability to schedule a post? Is that only in groups?
Pages and groups.
Okay.
You can do that. Yeah. Yeah. But I agree with you, Chris, like engaging with it on the day. There's something nice about that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this is what I'm talking about today. This is my message of the day. And then, maybe you launch into a couple stories on Instagram that pertain to, oh, this post I wrote today. I want to tell you guys a little bit more what I was thinking when I wrote, you can springboard sort of additional content if you're engaging with it in the day. I think you touched on why I struggle with scheduling apps, because I want to be like, my little parcel of content is my little gift to the world that day. And I want to hand deliver it. I think something about that. I don't know.
Yeah.
You do a lot of video content too, Chris. Where does that fit in? Do you record all that during that batching time?
Currently, I'm doing less of that. For the first year, when I started my email campaigns, I would make one every week. And so I would send out with a mass email, just a link to a video. And then I would write another article on top of that. And so it began to get too much, but I've got 52 videos logged in the last year. And that's always a helpful resource too, because I can send people to those things and they're there for forever. But I wasn't feeling like I was getting enough engagement with as much work as I was taking, because it takes a long time to make an original content video every single week and put that out there. So, but yeah, videos are powerful, because they're seeing you. They're learning a little bit more about your personality, and they're learning that, hey, is this a guy I can trust? Is this someone who's going to be supportive in my life? And it's hard to kind of get that from just static posts and pictures. So yeah, I think the more video content you can make, the better. And that's also something I wanted to say too. If you're listening to this, don't feel like you have to do what I do or some other person. I mean, 5 out of 7 days is a lot for some people, but do something. For me, there's no such thing as bad content. I think it was Seinfeld, Jerry Seinfeld, who made I don't know if he still does this or not, but he writes every single day. And his goal is not to write something good every day. It's just to write something every day. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of bad drivel that comes out of those writing sessions, but there's some good stuff too. And so showing up on a regular basis, whether that's once a week or once every 2 weeks or whatever schedule works for you, but just not logging a 0, if that makes sense. And when I was in high school, I still remember this. I had an English teacher, and on the first day, what he did, he says, don't ever turn in a 0. And what he did is he put some grades on his chalkboard. I'm dating myself because we didn't have dry erase boards. So an old chalkboard, right? And he said, okay, here's Sally, and she gets an A on her first quiz, and she gets a B on her writing assignment, and she got a B+ on her test. And then all of a sudden, Sally decided to not turn in an assignment because for whatever reason, she logged a 0. And then like the grade dropped to like a D+. Like, how could that be? She had nothing but A's and B's, but that 1 0 just sabotaged her whole score. And then he showed, okay, here's another guy who gets a B on a test and gets a C on his writing assignment and an F on a test. But instead of turning in a 0, he got another D or something like that. He's actually at a C+ grade. I can't remember the specifics of that, but that always stuck with me. It's like, hey, doing something is better than nothing. And I know that kind of sounds trite, but showing up on a regular basis, we can all do that. And if people are, I know I hear a lot of people that they're afraid because it's hard to put yourself out there. I mean, we talked about video for a second. I mean, that is not safe. I still remember the very first time I did an Instagram story, and I was terrified. And it felt so clunky and so out of my elements, and I hated putting a phone in front of my face. First of all, because I thought it looked so silly, a grown man walking around with doing selfies. I used to make fun of people like that, but you get over yourself pretty quickly. I've noticed on that because I tell myself it's embarrassing and I shouldn't care what other people think, but I do. But what I have to offer someone in terms of a message that I could say that could change their life is so much more important than what some stranger thinks of me for about 2 seconds. And so that's been really helpful. So I would just say, put yourself out there, get over yourself and do something. And, helpful exercise. I think it's been on one of your podcasts. I can't remember who said this. I think it was JJ Virgin, but she kind of goes through this exercise of what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen if you do a Facebook Live? Another terrifying experience if you've done that for the first time. I don't know anyone who's done a Facebook Live thing and just says, oh, this is so easy and so much fun. I mean, the first time it's going to be weird and it's going to be awkward, but what's the worst thing that can happen? If you really kind of go through the steps of that, it's not that bad. Someone's going to think you're awkward.
Yeah.
Who cares? They're going to be forgetting about you in 2 seconds. You might be thinking about it a lot longer than that, but we just really just need to kind of just practice that because it does get easier. And that's the thing. I think the encouragement that I want to leave everybody with is just that you have value to offer. You have things that can change someone's life with just a simple post. I had this one lady who texted me not too long ago, and she said, Chris, I give up. And I'm like, what? It's like, I'm ready. And she had been reading my post for a whole solid year, and she had not interacted with it one time, not one comment, not one like, not one thumbs up, nothing. I had no idea that this random person was reading every single word that I was writing. And it just reinforced to me, it's like, yes, don't worry about how many likes you're getting or how many followers you're getting or something like that. Your message is resonating with somebody out there, and you need to get over that imposter syndrome. Like, I've got nothing to offer. Again, another JJ Virgin thing I heard on your podcast. Like, you don't have to be the expert on your field. You don't have to be at the top of the mountain. If you're 1 mile up the mountain, you're an expert to somebody. Yeah. And so I try to tell myself that too. I don't feel like an expert, but I say, you know what? I am an expert because I am somebody's expert. Another awkward thing to do is to write what you are as an expert in your field in your bio. That's a very scary thing to do. I've written fat loss expert, and I still cringe when I see it because it feels like how arrogant for me to say that. But but again, it's just that really helps the imposter syndrome and say, yes, I do have value to offer somebody who might need, whose life could be changed by the messages that I'm giving. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I love that.
Well, I mean, that self-talk piece, like, it's so interesting, even all that tale you just wove. And I always say this, but it's like, guys, that's exactly the same kind of imposter syndrome and fear of failure that our clients have when they're starting their health journey. Like, they're in the exact same boat. Like, so it's so interesting how a health coach can be an expert. Like, I am the expert at this, and I know how to do this, 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 and this for you. But I'm nervous about getting started in social media. I'm nervous about what will people think of me. And that's exactly the same kind of self-talk that goes through our clients' head when they start a health transformation. It's just so interesting, that parallel, and how we can't really see it.
That's a great point, Erin. I try to coach myself. Like, what would I tell a client who's, for instance, trying to get healthy, and they're so discouraged because they went to the gym and they didn't pack on, 10 pounds of muscle after a week, or they're not losing weight. They're only losing like 2 pounds a week or something like that, which I want to say, hey, this is really good, but hey, this is like a long process that we're going through. And you got to show up every single day for this to have a cumulative effect, and it will happen. And so if you're not an overnight success in Instagram or Facebook, that's okay. Most of us aren't.
No.
It requires a constant showing up and building of your brand, and it's slow going, and it can be really discouraging. But I'm kind of banking on the fact that lots of little deposits over a long amount of time are going to have huge rewards in the long run. So
just like little deposits into your health account.
Absolutely.
Well, maybe we should transition then to your program, who you help and how you help them. So let's talk about your program, your product, your methodology. What's it called? How do you do it? Who are these people? You're helping corporate dads. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so my client is corporate dads. I don't spill out what their ages are, but in my head, I kind of know them in their 30s or 40s. So busy dads who are overspent, who are just super, super busy, feeling like a failure, probably wondered where the gut came out of nowhere, kind of my own story, and not doing dieting. A lot of the clients that I've worked with have done the gamut of yo-yo dieting and tried a lot of different things and kind of given up and kind of down on their luck. So that's my avatar in terms of what I help. And my signature program is something called 8 to Straight. It's just 8 weeks of the most important health topics that I can think of. So the first month of that, so half of my 8 weeks is all about getting people's nutrition in line and working on what are the foods that you had no idea that were harming you, and what are the foods that are going to be honoring to you and self-supportive of you. And so that's kind of the biggest piece of that. Then there's a couple of weeks where we dial in exercise. We talk about cardio in 1 week, and then we do weightlifting on the next week. And then the other week is just some different miscellaneous things, kind of a part of the whole sort of weight loss, fat loss pie, some sort of smaller components of that. And then it's just kind of transitioning, hopefully, into the last title of my message is how to live like this for 98% of the rest of your life. And so we kind of talk about, hey, this is something that hopefully during these 8 weeks, you've learned something that's going to support you for not just these 8 weeks. It's not some kind of crash regimen that you've been through, but it's something there's some rewiring that's happened in your brain, and it's going to allow you to experience more health for the long haul. Because I try to manage expectations really early on. Like 8 weeks is not too long to to really do some really great work. I mean, it can do some just miraculous healing in the first month, but we try to say, hey, what do you really want after this ends? And that's what I get actually more excited about when I hear clients who have graduated my program and they continue to get healthy. I mean, that's more exciting for me than the people that I'm working with currently. When I hear people that are just like, yeah, that changed me. That was the hallmark benchmark event of my life that got me steered in the right direction. There's nothing better for me to hear than that.
Cool. Awesome. So how is it delivered? It's a one-on-one program?
Yes, I'm only doing one-on-one coaching right now.
Yeah. So is it, how do you, I mean, you're like the king of the technology and the apps. How do you deliver your content? Is everything delivered in person over conversation? Tell us a little bit about the structure and
Yeah, so I have an online course called 8 to Straight. And so when they sign up with me, they get access to that. And so we just go week by week with that. So that's kind of the basis for the content of the things that we talk about. And then we have a 40-minute weekly Zoom call that we just begin to talk about those things. And we talk about what unique challenges they're facing and try to work on goals that I can help and support them with. And we walk through those 8 weeks together. And I have other coaching packages. Some people need longer than 8 weeks. Some people need 3 months, but usually 2 to 3 months is my kind of catbird seat window for extended life transformation. But I have clients that only need a month tune up, and I've got some that need 6 months or longer. So So it kind of runs the gamut. But usually the 8 weeks is kind of the thing that I'm most proud of, and it's kind of my baby.
What's your digital course built on?
Thinkific is the course platform that I use.
We like Thinkific.
I like it too. And I think it's just because it was familiar with me and it's intuitive for me. And so, yeah, I've really enjoyed creating that. So,
I'm seeing more and more people. I decided to go this road too. The idea that all the educational content is auto-delivered through a course for a couple of reasons. I wanted to repurpose it for those that can't afford actual coaching, right? But they keep asking me questions, and so they can access that at a lower price point. But I don't you're in Virginia, right?
Yes.
Where the state laws are a little more liberal, but in Illinois, the laws suck. So this is kind of my way of delivering nutrition content. So now I can't be accused of delivering any kind of individualized nutrition advice. That's all being auto-delivered. And then my coaching conversations are about answering their questions relative to what they learned. And rather than me pinpointing, okay, so of what you learned, this is what's relevant to you, we are able to have a conversation about what they think is relevant to them and why, right? And leverage based on what they learned, what they think they need to change first, and what's the next goal, and kind of taking them down that path. So I'm starting to see this trend as a great way to do this very efficiently, and it serves multiple purposes. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I also have a self-guided, uncoached version of my course too, and it's like dirt cheap, so I don't have to do anything but send them an email. I got that idea from one of you two. I thought that was a really good idea. Yeah. But it's $149, and once in a while someone will balk at the price and they're not ready for it. But maybe they're more self-starter kind of people, and so I can still use the same content of the course and send them an email. And it's I don't recommend that to anybody. I really don't, because I know how much most of us need to be guided into self-accountability. That doesn't happen overnight.
No.
So, but I enjoy the process so much to work with people one-on-one and just to work on those life changes step by step. But once in a while, there'll be someone who just give me the info, just the facts, man. So.
Yeah. Well, I've had to get over that hurdle myself. It's like, I really don't want you to just go through this on your own. I mean, you can if you want, but I'd rather you didn't. But people still buy my self-guided version as well. But what I've found is that I didn't intend for this to happen. And by the way, this is not any kind of sales conversation best practice by any stretch of the imagination. But when I get on the phone with a prospective client and I describe my program, and I'm describing the program, I'm describing the coach, the Cadillac program. This is how it is. One-on-one conversations. You're going to be met where you're at, all that stuff. And I'll drop the price tag of the coach program. And if I get any little sort of hesitation, I'll say, well, I mean, if that's not working for you right now, I encourage you to go back and think about it. But just so that you know, I also have an uncoached version of this program, which comes in at a much lower price point. There's no personalization there. It's just you doing the work. So if you're a very self-motivated person who can take self-direction, then that might be great for you. And people will say, oh no, that's not me. I'll sign up with your coach program. Like, honestly, I've used the existence of the self-guided program to launch people into my coach program, because they're like, oh yeah, no, I'm not self-motivated. That's why I'm on this phone call with this coach right now.
Right.
Yeah. I've had a lot of people ask me about specifically, hey, what coaching platform do you use in terms of the online course? I think a lot of people are building their own online courses, which I think is great. Disclaimer, it ruined a whole fall for me last year making it. It was the most consuming project I think I've ever done in my life. And so, word of warning to you, and I don't want to scare people off with that, but here's the good news with that, is that it's there now.
It's done.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's done, and I tweak it all the time, and I add content to it, and that's really fun to be able to kind of just perfect it all the more too. But it was an undertaking, but well worth it. But count the cost before you get into it, unless you got a lot of extra time on your hands.
I think that's a great reality check for people, but also, like, necessary. As far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned, it's necessary. If I could go back and talk to Erin 6 years ago when I first got started, I would grab her by her collar and shake her and say, automate things, start automating now. You wish you did. Because if I had started automating these things 6 years ago, boy, I'd be sitting pretty right now. Like, Chris, I'm doing a little 30-day challenge right now. I'm stepping into this 30-day challenge thing. I'm building that thing as we're going. It's like today is day 7 and I'm writing the day 8 content today. And it's like, I don't like that feeling. But next time I run it, it's done, right? So like coaches like automate. I know that's such a basic advice, but it sucks when you're doing it. It's very daunting. We don't want to do it. It's like, but then it's done. And then you get to sit back. It's so worth it in the end. Hey?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh
Cool.
my gosh.
So you use for your coaching calls, and those are one-on-one coaching calls. And do you find, this is just a very specific question, I'm just curious, do you find that your clients like to be on camera with you, or are these voice calls, or is it a mix of both?
It's a good question. With my coaching calls, I only do Zoom, and most of the clients, there's a little weirdness at first. I think a lot of them aren't used to, I used to hate like FaceTime. Anyone who wanted to Skype with me, it's like, ugh, I don't want to be seen. But again, you get over that kind of quickly. So I think some of my clients kind of get over that real quickly and realize there's value with that. Here's another interesting point, that most of my local clients have chosen to do Zoom for its efficiency rather than meet. That was kind of I thought all my local clients would want to meet in person, but most of them said, yeah, this actually works really well. So with sales calls, my earliest ones were, I did a video Zoom calls with them, and I learned early on, like, that's a terrible way to do it. Maybe it works for some people, but for 2 reasons. One, on an audio call, I just feel like I'm a lot more relaxed, and I'm actually following a script, like a sales script that I've kind of printed out. So here's the things that I want to talk about. And they're just questions that I want to ask and some things. And it's, especially when you drop the price tag, I have to actually write those things out, and I have to just read it and say it. And it's hard to do that when you're on video. The first video call that I ever did where I dropped the price tag, and I've been trained, by you amazing salespeople, just to say, you say the price and then you just shut up. Right. And so I did that, and the guy on my video call was like, just looking at me like for like a minute, thought the video was out because I was just still, and I was probably just shaking my boots and my eyes were all wide, So I really, if you're going to get on a sales call with people, I think doing it over the phone is the way to do it. But coaching works a lot better, for me at least, doing video.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that about your local clients preferring the calls, because I actually just had I had a discovery call this week with a local person who actually decided not to work with me because I wasn't going to go chase her around at coffee shops. And I actually had to stick to my guns. It's like, honestly, it's more convenient for you. It's more convenient. You're busy. I'm busy. We're not going to do this. Not going to work for us. And she's like, well, I really like an in-person coach. So, and it's like, okay, well, I'm not your girl. That's okay. Like, detaching from that outcome. But I want to come back to the sales script, because I keep getting mixed signals on the sales script thing. Like, I keep hearing, I'm interviewing business coaches right now, because I'm going to maybe make that leap into a business coach soon. And I can hear that I'm being read a sales script. Like, I can hear it. It's like, and I'm struggling. It's like, oh, but then everybody I know who's really successful at this is using a sales script. So it's like, you're clearly using one, Chris, but so did you write it yourself? Is there some nimbleness to it, or are you like a script reading robot, or how does the dance go between a conversation and a script?
Yeah, I've been on those calls before where I feel like I'm being read to, and I don't like it. So I just use it for notes. It's just, I wrote it from the top, and it varies with every person I talk with, because maybe they'll say something that, okay, I'm going to talk about that later in my script. So if I get down to the script, they obviously know I wasn't listening to them.
Right.
Because I just want to use it as a basis to get at really just, hey, here's the questions I want to ask you that are really getting you to talk about you and what, and they, before they schedule that discovery call with me, they're filling out a form when they're answering 10 questions, kind of about their readiness and what their current level of physical activity is during the week and what their diet is, some just general questions. And that's just kind of the basis for these phone calls. I'm really just asking them questions, and it's really kind of getting at what's the cost been for you. It might not be financial, but I'm trying to kind of say, yeah, there's something that's probably not working in your life right now in terms of your overall health and wellness. And there's been a huge cost to that, maybe in terms of dollars, but maybe not, maybe in terms of just feeling sluggish and not being available for your wife and your kids. And so really trying to say, hey, there is a cost to this. And this is why an investment working with me could be a great thing for me. I'm really careful about the language I use about being an investment. There's a cost to being unhealthy, but when you're trying to get healthy or whatever your goals are, that's like an investment that's going to have a return on it. I'm very confident in that. And so there's some key words on there that I think are really important, like investment, or a phrase that I'll use, like when you sign up with me. It helps the imposter syndrome as well too. It's not saying, oh, I hope you sign up with me. It's like, no, when you do. It doesn't mean that they're gonna, but just saying, hey, I'm confident that what I have to offer you is going to change your life. And so just those things I really want to put in the script that are kind of those keynotes that I really, really want to hit. So, but it takes, and I'm so new at this too, that I'm still really getting over when you drop the price tag on them and trying to just shut up with that. That takes a lot of work and a lot of practice, and I'm still shaking when I do it. And that's something I got to get over with practice. But I try to just say, hey, just tell them the price of your program like you were telling someone what city you're from. No emotion to it. Don't raise your voice. Don't lower it. It's just like, I am from Denver, Colorado. So the price of my program is, and you can sound like a robot there, but just to have that without any emotion to it, because it's only weird if we make it weird.
Yeah. I always say to people, it's like things cost things. Like things have price tags. This is just the price tag of my thing. We're not at a flea market here. Can't, it's just the price of this thing. It's the price of this coffee cup. It's the price of these freaking AirPods. Like, they have a price tag. I wasn't allowed to go to the Apple store. Like,
let me ask you both a question. When you drop the price of your individual program, what percentage of your people push back enough and say, wow, that sounds expensive?
Lots.
Yeah, lots for me too.
Okay. Because for me, I want to say it's less than half. I mean, it comes up, but it's less than half. And, again, I'm not going to be able to work with everybody. I know this. I don't have the bandwidth to work with everybody. But so I think some of this comes down to the upfront framing of what it is you're delivering and the value of what you're delivering, and being able to lead with that think ahead picture of, okay, so if we're able to accomplish and get you from, the visualization of where you are to where you want to go, what life is really going to be like for you, and what is the value of that. And also, in some cases, I will turn around and frame the money they're spending now on all this stuff, and they're still unhealthy relative to the cost of my program, and now they're living the life that they want. That seems to be the game changer for me in some of my conversations, where I think I get a little less, I still get it, but I get a little less pushback and I get more yeses.
Yeah. And if I have the answer to someone's desperate problem, money shouldn't be a factor, and it won't be. Because if someone has the answer to my problem, I mean, take all my money, take everything I got.
Yeah.
And so it's just really trying to identify what those problems are and what it has been costing them, and getting people to realize that can be just an epiphany for people to say, yeah, this really is costing me and I'm sick of that. And it's hard to guarantee this, but I say, hey, if you work with me, this is gonna be the last one you're ever going to do. So it's a one-time cost. And I don't say this often, but I think all the time, like when I drop the price and it's so expensive, like I want to say, compared to what?
Exactly.
A new
relative
TV?
to what?
Yeah. I mean, come on, and it's just like, that kind of helps me kind of think, okay, hey, this is a worthwhile investment, and you're going to get a return on it that you wouldn't get on a vacation or a new flat screen or a car or something like that. And I don't know what most people charge, but me, it's a car payment. And sometimes I say that, yeah, it's expensive. It's a car payment for 3 months. And sometimes that kind of reframes it a little bit for people. Like, I could do a car payment for 3 months. We're not talking about a 3-year or a 10-year car payment. It's just a short-term investment with long-time results.
Yeah. Well, I will say that I do get other people who say, "Ooh, that's more than I thought it was going to be." But you know what? Sign me up anyway. Like, people will balk at the price, but then I always say that by the time they get on the phone with me, they're pretty sure they want to do it. There's not a lot of convincing, I find, on a discovery call. I think the price tag is the curiosity, because of course we're not talking about that in our marketing messages.
Right.
You know, we're not even hinting at it. I don't think people have any vague clue how much it costs to work with a health coach. And then when you mention that price, it's like kind of the first time they're actually like having an awareness that this is an investment. But even though they think it's expensive, it's a high closing rate anyway, because they want it. And if you go through the sales script and you, not even the sales script, but like the marketing messaging, the messaging you put out there, you're solving the problem. They know you're the person with the solution to the problem. And like you said, Chris, and I use the example of my neck injury. When I hurt my neck, I didn't care how much it cost. I just wanted my neck fixed because it was ruining my life. And it's like, yeah, take all my money. If you got the solution to my sore neck, take my money. And that's where people are at. So I think that when folks get on, people worry about the sales call. What if they say no? It's like, that doesn't happen very often, I find.
Right. Not if you've got it set up, right? If you're teeing it up.
Yeah. One of the best things I've learned with sales calls is whether someone enrolls with you or not, it says nothing of the kind of coach that you are. Just last week, an old friend of mine came to my door, and I've got a big no soliciting sign on my door. And that's been a great thing, you know, it keeps people from, but this guy was like ignoring it. And I was upstairs and I had some headphones on, I was doing some work and I could hear this ringing and I'm like, oh, he'll go away. And it just kept ringing and ringing and ringing. I'm like, man, this guy's persistent, you know. Well, he finally went away after about 20 minutes, and 20 minutes later I had to go to the store and he came running at me. I'm just like, oh my gosh. But I realized, oh, this is a guy that knows me. So he was ignoring the soliciting sign and all that. But he was selling roofs. Right. And I'm going to need a new roof in like 3 years, maybe. But, you know, and so I had to like say no. And he was feeling all down and all about that. But I was just thinking, man, he was a great salesperson. He did his job. But me saying no to a $7,000 roof replacement said nothing about him.
Right.
And so, you know, that's been really key for me to just say, hey, I'm, you know, that if someone doesn't sign up with me, that says nothing about my character, nothing about my my aptitude as a coach or a person, and just to kind of remove yourself from that, just say that says everything about them and their readiness and where they're at. And if it's someone who's not ready, you don't want them as a client anyway. No, you don't. I've convinced people before to sign up with me that weren't ready, and it was a disaster, and not something I want to do ever again.
Yes, that's just a really sweet soundbite to kind of maybe like wrap up on. I think it's just awesome insight, Chris, and I love how encouraging you are. You're just one of the most encouraging people in our community, and I hope people listening feel encouraged by you. So tell us where we can find you, where people can find and learn more about what you do.
Yeah, you can go to 8tostraight.com. That's my website. That's where you can find me, and all my links to Instagram, Facebook, YouTube are all in there as well. So
Sweet. Everything goes to one place. Keep it simple. Keep us focused. A couple of the things that I really wrote down here, I think are great takeaways for this whole conversation with you, Chris, is consistency, right? Doing something is better than nothing. Don't put up a zero. I love that. And I say that to a lot of my gym members that come into the gym sometimes and don't get the best workout. They just weren't there. They just weren't feeling it. And I just am like, dude, you showed up. You showed up. You didn't post a zero. So I just think that mindset is applicable across your entire life. And it's huge for something like this. So that was probably one of my favorite sound bites of the whole thing.
Oh,
and
thank you
for being so generous too with your tips, your tricks, and the technology you use. I think people listening are going to find this invaluable.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris.
Hey, thank you too. I had so much fun with that, and I can't believe you asked me. So thank you so much for just honoring me with that. And yeah, you guys are the best. I think you know how much I think about you and care about you guys, but yeah, we're saying again, I adore you too. Thank you again for everything.
Likewise.
Thank you.
All right.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.